Hey everybody, it's Dave. Well, the trailer's spick and span, and I'm drenched in sweat, and I'm coming inside to have a little cool water, some lemonade. Somebody sends me this, and I gotta admit, thank God there's some fresh information on YouTube to get away from this stale rehash of this cast of characters. Primarily, number one, before I showcase this video, it's brought up in the video, but where's Thomas Paine with this expose on the child who was raped by Bill Clinton? Where's that expose at? From Michael Moldy Spores. Why did that disappear? All of a sudden, that story's over with. The big Jenny Moore story. Anyway, it was refreshing to see Marcus Conte. I didn't know that much about him. I respect his law enforcement background. We're similar in that area. We both have that kind of a background, so it's thin blue line. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's like me. He understands evidence, not just talk and hot air, right? I think he's spot on with the connection that Jason Lee and George Webb are probably gay lovers or former gay lovers. Based on some of the comments I've received from women offline that have had contact with George and Jason Lee, I'd say that's about right. You'll have to listen to Marcus. He paints the picture. He does the diagnostic analysis, but suffice to say, I don't think there's a closet big enough to hold those two. The way they act, they were into cars all the time, sniping at each other like an elderly couple, and the way Jason rushed down to Zanesville to rescue George. I mean, Marcus does a good job. I have to go along with him. And I didn't know Jason Lee's neighborhood was the most openly pro-gay neighborhood in the entire world. That sounds about right. So I think there's a lot of questions about how intimate the relationship was. I think that's something that we need to consider. And then that feeds into the Jenny Moore thing, because if Margaret, the deep flame, not your turn to burn lady, who's always sticking her nose into this entire affair, she spent 5 days with Jenny Moore, getting her to go off opioids, getting her to go off OxyContin, apparently. Cold turkey, abrupt detox. Very dangerous, very dangerous. So Deep Flame hasn't come forward and offered any information. Why is she so silent? She has a guilty conscience. Allegedly, purportedly, hypothetically, theoretically. But that's not something you do to people and say, hey, let's get you on cold turkey here, detox. And that might have caused the medical problems for Jenny Moore. Which, by the way, the Tracy Police Department issued a obituary on Facebook, on their Facebook page. And I have to say, I'm not saying anything nasty about Jenny Moore. I mean, she has a law enforcement background as well. I want to be respectful of her, but she certainly wasn't built up the way George Webb kept talking about her. You know, witness protection program, lie, misleading, error. That's not true. Undercover narcotics officer? No. Canine officer? No. Detailed to the DEA? No. None of that's in there. To provide a fair assessment, she was more of a community service officer, educational resource officer. She probably, worked at a high school or junior high, like a crossing guard kind of a thing. It wasn't some really mysterious, dangerous thing. So all this buildup that George was pushing out on Jenny Moore, it's a little hyped up. And I think Marcus does a pretty good job of analyzing what probably happened as an accidental overdose of these drugs, and I happen to agree with that. So I would say on both major points, the fact there's not a closet big enough to hold Jason and George, I agree with that. And the fact that Jenny Moore probably died of an accidental overdose, I agree with that. So I'll leave the link below. Kudos to Marcus, and thanks for the fresh information.
Hey everybody, it's Dave. It's supposed to be a BLT. Does this look like a BLT in our hypothetical and theoretical analysis of all those legal theories that we have a scholarly interest in, no matter how illogical and incomprehensible? Well, Marcus, clueless intervener, He accused me of criminal acts. He wrote an email to a federal judge and accused me of criminal acts. Jason,
The Mountain Roars. I'm still waiting on my Peabody Award.
he's accused me of criminal acts. Tooth Fairy. Tooth Fairy has accused me of criminal acts. They never give a cite. They never give the title of the regulation or the law that I supposedly have broken. But they always say, this is a criminal gang stalking operation. It's all right, well, for the last time, I don't work with anybody. I am a maverick. I do my own thing. That's why I've been a consultant most of my life. Companies and government agencies hire me to come in, do an analysis, and leave. So that's just the way it is. So I don't want to hear any crocodile tears when this stuff comes out in the federal court next week. That starts identifying actual criminal activity. Because everybody wants to talk about it. How many people has Marcus
Clueless intervener.
How many people has he accused of criminal activity? He put one video out with a title, accused me of being a pedo. He changed the title right away. We still got it. Who is this guy? You know, he's kind of like the new George Webb to Jason.
I'm the Mountain Roars.
See, Jason needs a proxy sidekick. He can't operate without a proxy sidekick. And he had George Webb for a while. And they committed the Port of Charleston together. And now this obstruction of justice, this is the new Port of Charleston. And Jason,
The Mountain Roars. I'm waiting on my Peabody Award.
he hasn't denied it. He acts like this lawsuit doesn't exist. Of course not. He sent in his proxy agent, Marcus. Isn't that how it works, George?
George Webb, I'm part of this too.
I mean, come on, George. Isn't that how it works? You guys are developing a rich history. That's why you always constantly need new people, because people start figuring it out and leaving.
Yeah, that's who that was. So, DeFango, lose my number.
So, that's what Checkmate K2's for. Checkmate K2. Checkmate King 2. CheckmateKing2.net. Links in the box. Stay tuned.